You spawned in. You found some food, maybe even a weapon, and then you ran for 10 minutes and realized you have no idea where you are. Most players only know how to navigate a map they've memorized. But real navigation isn't about memory, it's about method. In this guide, I am going to show you how I navigate in real life and how you can use that in DayZ, even on maps you've never played before. How to use landmarks, terrain, the sun, compass and maps as a system. And how to move with intention instead of guessing. So no matter where you are, you'll always know how to figure it out. Let's get into it. You don't get lost in DayZ because you don't have a compass or GPS receiver. You get lost because you probably don't have a system to narrow things down. We are going to use a simple 4-step system that takes us from general to exact position. It's the same structure I use for real-life navigation. Reduce, direction, anchor, predict. Let's start with the first one. Reduce. Scanning an entire map to find our exact position is simply not gonna work. We need to reduce the map to as small an area as possible. So the first question I ask myself is this. Where am I globally? Not the exact town, globally. Am I near the coast, deep inland, near mountains, close to a river system? Because if you understand your global position, you've already reduced the entire map dramatically. Let me give you a few examples. On a map like, let's say, Sakal, many places look similar to me. But if we find ourselves on the coast, we can't ignore the middle of the map pretty much. And if we deduce that we are on the north coast by using the sun, we can narrow it down even further. Now, you might be thinking, this is stupid. I just read the town name on the sign and sure, if there would be signs every 100 meters, this would be easy. But you won't always get that luxury, especially land inwards. So you cannot build your navigation around hoping for it. We need a strategy that doesn't rely on signs. Alright, let's get back to it. If we're playing Deer Isle and we're in some kind of mountain range, we cannot be in the south. We can also ignore the islands and there, we've pretty much reduced our area to about 1/3 now. Let me give you one final example of a map that I barely know. Banov. I recently played Banov for the very first time. It's a huge map, very easy to get lost on. An hour after leaving the capital, I didn't know my exact location, but it's impossible to reach the other side of the map in that time span. So we can reduce the map to what's realistic to walk in an hour, and we take it from there. Now this first step might sound almost too simple, almost obvious. But this is the foundation for everything that follows. And you'd be surprised by how many players just completely skip this step. They open the map and just start scanning the entire thing, without narrowing it down first. Reducing the map is powerful, but it's incomplete. Because knowing roughly where you are doesn't help us get anywhere. So question 2 is simple. Which direction am I going? This doesn't mean which way am I facing while standing still. Which way am I actually moving through the world? Traditionally, we use the sun for this. In DayZ, just like in real life, the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. Come nighttime, the stars give similar alignment. You can use something like the Big Dipper. So, we use the sun or stars as a reference point. Not for perfect accuracy, but to keep moving in a reasonably straight line. Because without a reference, we drift. Most people are absolutely convinced they're moving in a straight line. They're not. Humans naturally curve. We correct slightly left, then slightly right, and slowly we spiral. This happens both in real life as in DayZ. And something like the sun helps prevent that. But here's the obvious problem. You cannot always rely on it. At noon, the sun is high, on cloudy days it's hidden, and that is where other reference points become important. If you cannot use the sky, use the ground. A river, a railroad, a coastline, power lines, these are all linear features. In real-world navigation, this is similar to what's called a handrail. You use it to guide your movement because you need something consistent to move alongside. So you make one decision: keep it on your left or keep it on your right, and now you're no longer drifting. You are moving with structure. You don't need to move in a perfectly straight line. You need to stop spiraling and move in one direction. Stability first, accuracy second. Before we move on, you might have noticed something. We haven't really talked about the compass or the GPS receiver, and that's on purpose, because I want you to rely on a system that works even if you never find those tools. If you build your navigation around tools you might not find, you're dependent. If you build it around orientation, you're adaptable. Now, of course, if you do find a compass, step 2 becomes much easier. And if you do find a GPS receiver, pinpointing becomes trivial. But those tools don't replace the system. They just speed it up. Alright, let's continue. You know your general area, and you follow a general direction, like a river or a railroad. This prevents you from spiraling, but it won't tell you exactly where you are. So you move alongside it until you reach something decisive. A bridge, a road crossing, a lake, a radio tower. Something distinguishable enough to refine your position. That's your anchor. Now, here's the most common mistake I see people make. They see one thing and assume. I see a radio tower, so I must be here. But a map can contain multiple radio towers. It's rare to find a building or feature that's unique on any map. So a single feature gives you a possibility, not a position. What matters is a combination. A single shed on the north side, a railroad running east to west, a red trail marker. Now you're not matching one thing, you're matching a pattern. Single features lie, combinations don't. Let me show you what that looks like in practice. We are playing Sakal, a map where you get easily lost. Our last known location was that big city on the east coast with a difficult name. We've been following a power line that kind of runs east to west, and now we came across this green mustache house. It's on the north side of the power line, has several sheds and an outhouse next to it. So we open the map and we look somewhere on the east side of the island, land inwards. Specifically, we look for a power line that runs left to right that eventually has a few small buildings on the north side of it. And there you have it. That looks a lot like our location. And this is where many players stop. They see a match and assume they're correct. However, good navigation doesn't stop at recognition. It tests the idea. So you make a prediction. If this is where I am, then just ahead of me there should be a bend in the road to the left and a bridge. If I'm over here, there should be a turn right up ahead with a feed shack next to it. Or, if we keep following this road, we should end up at a small summer camp. You move and you verify. If it matches, confidence increases. If it doesn't, you correct immediately and go back to the previous steps. Now that we know exactly where we are, we don't just start running blindly toward our destination. We apply the same logic forward. Pick a handrail, pick an intermediate anchor, move from point A to point B in segments. Navigation doesn't stop once you found yourself. It continues the same way. So remember, reduce, direction, anchor, predict. That's it. Once you start thinking like this, you're not wandering anymore. You're actually navigating. Hey, if this video helped you out, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll see you in the next run.